Security escorted this man out immediately. He clearly doesn't belong here. Kareem al-Hashimi stepped toward the polished marble reception desk of the Alabaster Crown Hotel, the Quranic calligraphy on his leather travel bag catching the light beneath crystal chandeliers. His neatly trimmed beard, prayer cap, and modest travel clothes drew the immediate scrutiny of manager Meredith Langley. Her gaze slid over his navy Kurdish shirt and tailored slacks with the kind of disgust that wore the mask of politeness. "Excuse me, sir. This is a private establishment," Meredith announced, each syllable sugar-coated but cutting. The lobby's other guests, mostly Western business travelers and wealthy tourists, paused mid-conversation to watch the scene unfold. Kareem's face remained unreadable, his hands resting lightly on the reception counter. "Good evening. I have a reservation under Crescent Hospitality Group." Meredith didn't even touch her keyboard. "I highly doubt that." With a small flick of her hand, she signaled for security, performing for her audience. "We maintain certain standards here," she said, her voice carrying just enough for everyone to hear. Two uniformed guards started toward them as some guests nodded approvingly, reassured that someone like him wouldn't get too close to their exclusivity. The humiliation was deliberate, measured, and public, exactly as Meredith intended. Kareem had arrived by rideshare instead of his usual chauffeur, dressed intentionally simple after a long flight from Doha. He was the 36-year-old CEO of Crescent Hospitality Group, worth $3.1 billion. But today, he was conducting an undercover review of his latest acquisition, a hotel chain he'd bought through intermediaries just 48 hours earlier. The Alabaster Crown, a property known for its marble opulence, had a darker reputation for quietly discouraging certain types of guests. Kareem had heard enough whispered accounts from Muslim travelers, denied bookings after showing ID, accused of loitering in lobbies, to want first-hand proof. Meredith Langley, 47, had run this property for over a decade. Her reputation rested on protecting the atmosphere, code for excluding anyone she thought might make her clientele uncomfortable. Her assistant manager, Daniel Cho, 29, lingered nearby, uneasy as Meredith's tone shifted into full prejudice. Kareem stepped forward with the calm posture of someone used to boardrooms and diplomatic conferences. "Good evening. I have a reservation under Crescent Group." She didn't look at the system. Her eyes scanned his attire. The prayer cap, the faint henna pattern on his wrist from Eid prayers, the understated gold watch. "I'm sorry, but there's been some confusion," she said, her voice thick with condescension. "This establishment requires a certain caliber of clientele." The meaning was obvious. Nearby guests, a pair of middle-aged expats, a honeymooning couple, two corporate types, turned to watch with polite curiosity. Meredith's voice rose slightly, ensuring the audience stayed hooked. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the budget chain a few streets over." Kareem kept his tone neutral. "Could you please check your system? The reservation should be there." Her laugh was short and dismissive. "Sir, I don't need to check anything. I can see you don't belong here." The lobby grew quiet. Even the staff behind the counter shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. "We have a dress code, certain standards to maintain. Surely you understand," she pressed, her eyes flicking to the small prayer beads hanging from his bag's zipper pull. Kareem felt the familiar burn. Islamophobia dressed up as policy, but kept his expression steady. He'd gathered proof of it in airports, restaurants, and conference venues around the world. But this one felt personal. Meredith had no idea she was turning away the man who owned the building she worked in. "I'm Kareem al-Hashimi. My company made this reservation 3 days ago. Could you please just check?" His voice was measured, polite, knowing that in situations like this, any hint of frustration would be twisted into aggression. Meredith's brow furrowed. "Al-Hashimi, that's not possible." She hesitated, as though the name rang a faint bell, then dismissed it. "Look, I don't know what you're playing at, but impersonating a guest is illegal." She turned to Daniel. "Call security." Daniel hesitated. Something in Kareem's dignified composure told him this wasn't the usual trouble. "Meredith, maybe we should." "Did I stutter?" she snapped. This person is trying to bluff his way into our hotel. Look at him. She gestured toward Kareem's modest travel clothes. Does he look like he belongs in a $2,500 a night suite? A murmur rippled through the crowd. A woman in pearls whispered, I bet he's here to preach or hand out pamphlets. An older man muttered, surprised they even let him pass security. Kareem reached for his wallet and produced a black American Express Centurion card, the kind only the ultra-wealthy carry. Perhaps this will help verify my identity. Meredith barely glanced at it. Anyone can fake a card these days. Two large guards appeared, both white, both crisp in uniform. Kareem recognized the type. Ex-military, likely decent men, just following the instructions of someone steeped in bias. He didn't resist as they moved to flank him. Gentlemen, he said evenly, there's been a misunderstanding. I'm a guest here. The lead guard, Jacob Morrison, looked uncertain. Years in security had taught him to spot real problems, and this wasn't one. He's trespassing, Meredith declared, louder now, making sure her audience heard. Remove him immediately. Jacob glanced between Kareem's calm dignity and Meredith's over-the-top outrage. His instinct said this was wrong, but she was his boss. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, he said quietly. Kareem nodded once, making mental notes of every face, every whisper, every approving smirk. I understand you're doing your job, he said without anger, only quiet disappointment. As they escorted him toward the exit, Kareem pulled out his phone. One call, and everything was about to change. Looks uncertain. He's worked hotels long enough to spot real trouble. And this, isn't it? Victoria's voice rises triumphantly. He's trespassing. Remove him immediately. She's playing to her audience now, the concerned white patrons nodding there. Approval of her protection of their exclusive space. Jake glances between Damon's calm dignity and Victoria's theatrical outrage. His instinct screams something's wrong, but Victoria is his. Boss, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, he says apologetically. Damon nods slowly, making mental notes of every face, every reaction, every word. I understand you're doing your job. His tone holds no anger, only disappointment. As they escort him toward the exit, Damon makes a phone call that will change everything. Before we proceed further, I want to take a moment to invite you to be part of something bigger than just this story. If what you've heard so far has made you feel, think, or reflect, even for a moment, then hit that like button so more people could discover voices like these. Subscribe to Muslim Stories Unheard so you never miss the next untold truth waiting to be heard. And if you've lived through moments of bias, resilience, faith, or triumph, or even witnessed them, share your experience in the comments. Let's get back to our story. The walk to the exit became a parade of shame orchestrated by Meredith. Instead of resolving the matter quietly, she projected her voice across the marble lobby like a town crier. This is exactly why we have strict security protocols, she announced. You never know who might try to slip into our establishment under false pretenses. Guests craned their necks, some holding up phones to record, others stepping away as though Kareem might bring trouble simply by proximity. A young woman hugged her handbag closer. An older man muttered, they ought to keep these people in their own hotels. The humiliation wasn't incidental, it was engineered. Public, complete. Meredith followed close behind, savoring the performance. We've had issues before, she said loudly, with people trying to blend in. They think if they dress up and act polite, we won't notice. She left the rest unsaid, but the implication about his prayer cap, his beard, his accent, hung in the air like a cloud of perfume gone sour. Jacob Morrison, the lead security officer, felt his unease grow with every step. His earpiece crackled, a soft voice from another staff member. We checked. The Crescent group booking is real. Ma'am, he murmured to Meredith, maybe we should double-check. Are you questioning my judgment? She hissed, her composure sharpening into steel. That man is an imposter, and I will not have him disturbing our guests. Kareem moved with deliberate calm. Hands visible, gait steady, no sudden movements. He knew the choreography well. The way a Muslim man's presence could be turned into a security threat simply by existing in the wrong space. But this time, the sting was sharper because this hotel was his. As they neared the revolving glass doors, Meredith delivered her flourish. "Sir, you are now banned from this property. If you return, you'll be arrested for trespassing." She pitched her voice so the entire lobby could hear, each word dripping with self-righteousness. In a quiet corner, a well-dressed Muslim couple, she in an elegant silk hijab, he in a tailored suit, watched the scene with eyes full of recognition. The woman gripped her husband's hand, the memories of their own humiliations flickering fresh. They were paying guests here, but suddenly felt unsafe, wondering if they'd be next. Kareem paused at the threshold, turning back slowly. His eyes swept the room, the staff avoiding his gaze, the guests split between embarrassment and approval, Meredith wearing her smug satisfaction like a crown. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried in the marble air. "I want every person here to remember this moment. Remember what you saw. Remember what you chose to do or not do." His gaze fixed on Meredith. Because choices have consequences. Meredith's laugh was brittle. "Is that a threat?" Kareem shook his head, slow and deliberate. "It's a promise." The glass door spun, and Kareem stepped into the cool night air. Behind him, Meredith accepted nods and murmured congratulations from her audience, mistaking it for validation. Inside, Daniel Cho stood frozen. His phone screen glowed with the Crescent Hospitality Group reservation, confirmed, legitimate, complete with a private note about the CEO's property assessment visit. On the sidewalk, Kareem pulled out his phone and dialed. This wasn't for lawyers or PR damage control. This was the call that would end Meredith's career before sunrise. The hotel's golden light spilled across the pavement as the chill evening air wrapped around him. The humiliation was still sharp, but beneath it sat something heavier. The knowledge that this wasn't an isolated act of bias. It was systemic, sheltered by an industry that profited from exclusion and rewarded those who enforced it. His first text went to his assistant, Samira. "Execute Alabaster Crown acquisition announcement immediately. Full staff meeting in 20 minutes. Send termination paperwork for Meredith Langley, effective tonight." As he waited for her reply, his mind traced the long path here. Son of a Lebanese immigrant father and a British-born mother, Kareem had built Crescent Hospitality from a single boutique property into a global brand. Every expansion had carried the same mission, to create spaces where dignity wasn't conditional on someone's faith. His phone buzzed. Samira had already pushed the announcement to every major business network. Stock tickers were reacting, and board members were scrambling to work out how a quiet holding company had gained control of their crown jewel. His second call was to his head of HR, Nurasala. "Review every manager's file. Look for patterns. Guest complaints about profiling, wrongful refusals, sudden turnover of Muslim or Middle Eastern staff." Tonight didn't happen in isolation. Through the glass, he could see Meredith still at the reception desk, spinning her own heroic version of events. She didn't know that the news was already moving faster than her lies. His third call surprised even him, to his therapist, Dr. Omar Faruqi. "I need to process something from tonight. The plan worked, but the feelings hit harder than I expected." Even with the approaching satisfaction of justice, Kareem understood the toll of deliberately stepping into a hostile space just to gather proof. Samira's next message rolled in. Al Jazeera and CNN picked it up. "Your previous op-eds on religious discrimination and hospitality are trending. Hashtag Muslim CEO justice is climbing fast." He allowed himself a moment's quiet satisfaction, not for revenge, but for what this would mean to every hotel worker who'd faced faith-based discrimination, every Muslim guest made to feel suspect in a place they paid to be. Tonight was the first step toward their vindication. The revolving door spun again. A young Muslim man in casual clothes entered the lobby, kufi cap perched neatly on his head. Kareem saw Meredith's face light up with the same predatory assessment she'd used on him minutes earlier. This wouldn't wait. The lesson needed to be immediate and absolute. Kareem walked back toward the entrance, his stride unhurried but purposeful. Inside, Phones were buzzing as news alerts spread. In the corner, a tech executive whispered to his companion, "Crescent Hospitality just announced they own this chain. The CEO is Kareem Al-Hashimi." Meredith didn't notice. She was still telling a small group about her instincts. "You develop a sixth sense about these things," she said. I could tell instantly he was trouble. Jacob approached her, phone in hand. "Meredith, we need to talk. I just got a call from corporate." "Not now, Jacob. Can't you see I'm busy?" She cut him off. Kareem walked straight to the desk, past the same guests who had watched his humiliation. This time, some lowered their eyes. Others stared openly, connecting his face to the headlines now filling their feeds. The young tech executive's drink slipped from his hand. "Excuse me," Kareem said politely to Daniel, whose face was pale as he stared at his monitor. "I believe you have a reservation for Crescent Group." Daniel's hands shook as he nodded. "Yes, sir. The penthouse suite." I tried to tell her. His voice faltered as he realized exactly what had just happened. Meredith finally noticed the commotion. She turned from her cluster of admirers, eyes widening when she saw Kareem back in the lobby. "What is he doing here, Jacob?" "Security." But Jacob Morrison wasn't moving. He was staring at his phone, his face drained of color. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "he owns the hotel. He owns the whole chain." The silence hit like a dropped chandelier. Guests fumbled for their phones, some to Google Kareem's name, others to start filming what they now understood would be historic footage. In the corner, the Muslim couple who had watched the earlier scene exchanged a look heavy with understanding. They knew exactly what was about to happen. Meredith's expression flickered from confusion to disbelief to dawning horror. That's impossible. He looked like she couldn't finish the thought, her worldview collapsing in real time. Kareem reached into his jacket, the same worn leather jacket she had smirked at earlier, and pulled out a business card. "I believe we were interrupted during introductions." Meredith's face drained as she read it. Kareem Al-Hashimi, CEO. The lobby transformed into a stage for consequences. Guests who had chuckled at Meredith's earlier jabs now tried to fade into the marble, shoving their phones into pockets, suddenly fascinated by the floor. This is fake. "Anyone can print a card," Meredith stammered, but without conviction. Daniel Cho's computer screen glowed with confirmation. Kareem Al-Hashimi, CEO of Crescent Hospitality Group. Estimated net worth, $3.1 billion. "Would you like additional verification?" Kareem asked mildly, pulling out his phone. Within seconds, Samira patched him through to corporate headquarters. The speaker crackled with the voice of the regional director. "Mr. Al-Hashimi, congratulations on the acquisition. We're honored to have you visit the Alabaster Crown." The color left Meredith's face entirely. Several guests edged toward the elevators, wanted to be anywhere but inside this scene. But Kareem wasn't finished. "Meredith," he said, using her name with deliberate weight, "I'd like you to meet some people." He gestured toward his phone. Samira had a conference line open with the board of directors, all of them scrambling to understand how they had lost control of their company. "Good evening," Kareem said into the line. "I'm calling from the lobby of your flagship property, where I've just been given a masterclass in your approach to Muslim guests. Meredith Langley here has shown me exactly why this acquisition was necessary." Confusion and alarm spilled from the board members' voices. Meredith realized she was on speaker, being discussed by the most powerful people in hospitality. Her hands shook as she reached for the phone, but Kareem gently moved it out of her reach. "No, Meredith. They need to hear it directly from you. Tell them about your standards. Explain your screening process. Describe who you think belongs in luxury hospitality." Jacob Morrison stepped forward, caught between his training and the realization that he was witnessing corporate history. "Sir, should I?" Kareem shook his head. "Jacob, you are following orders. This lesson isn't for you." The Muslim couple approached cautiously. The woman spoke softly. "Thank you. This happens more than people think." Kareem nodded, recognizing the pain behind her voice. Meredith opened her mouth to defend herself, but Kareem's hand lifted, stopping her. "Before you speak, think carefully. Every word is being recorded by security cameras, heard by your board, and witnessed by every guest here. Her mouth closed again. The woman who had commanded the lobby minutes ago now stood frozen in the glare of accountability. Staff who had witnessed the incident began quietly texting, some to friends, others to recruiters. Kareem's voice stayed calm. I've spent my career studying moments like this. The psychology of power, the comfort of prejudice, the assumption that there are no consequences. He paused. You felt safe because you thought I was powerless. In the corner, a young tech entrepreneur was already filming, certain this would be viral within hours. Guests scrolled through stock updates. Crescent Hospitality shares were climbing on news of the acquisition and Kareem's reputation for transforming discriminatory businesses. Daniel finally spoke. Sir, I tried to get her to check the reservation. I'm sorry this happened. Kareem inclined his head. Daniel, I noticed. That shows character. Meredith's voice dropped to a whisper. I was just maintaining our standards. This is a luxury establishment. We have to be careful about. She stopped, realizing each word dug her deeper. Careful about what, Meredith? Kareem asked. Careful about Muslims? Careful about anyone who doesn't match your personal idea of who belongs here? Please go on. The board is listening. Jacob's radio crackled. Reporters were calling already, tipped off by social media. The Muslim woman from the corner held up her phone. People need to see this. May I post it? Kareem nodded. Let them see what accountability looks like. He turned back to Meredith. You wanted to send a message about who belongs in luxury hospitality. Congratulations. You've succeeded beyond your wildest dreams. Her knees buckled, and she clung to the counter. The reality of consequence had replaced the comfort of bias. Kareem pulled a folder from his bag, the same deliberate gesture she had mocked earlier. The lobby fell silent except for the quiet hum of recording phones. 3 days ago, Crescent Hospitality Group completed the acquisition of Al-Zahra Properties, your parent company, for $4.6 billion. Gasps echoed through the lobby. Meredith's face turned gray. She hadn't just insulted a guest. She'd humiliated her new employer, a Muslim CEO, on his first day in control. This wasn't hostile, Kareem continued. Your board came to me because my company is known for turning around businesses poisoned by exclusionary culture. Stock prices surged on Daniel's screen. Analysts were already calling it the deal of the decade. I could have announced myself immediately, Kareem said. But true character comes out when people believe there are no consequences. He glanced toward the cameras. Tonight, the world gets to see who you really are. Meredith's lips moved, but no sound came out. Staff began to edge away from her, forming a widening circle of distance. How many of you recorded what happened? Kareem asked the guests. Several hands went up reluctantly. Good. Keep those videos. Share them. This is what systemic religious discrimination looks like in luxury hospitality. He showed his own phone, accounts with millions of followers who had followed his work fighting faith-based prejudice in business. I've been documenting incidents like this for years. But tonight is different. The Muslim couple stepped forward, the woman's voice firm now. We've been through this before. Thank you for refusing to let it slide. Kareem nodded. Jacob approached. Sir, I need to apologize. I should have questioned it sooner. My instincts told me something was wrong. Trust them, Kareem said. They're based on experience, not prejudice. Meredith's desperation flared. This is entrapment. You misled us. You can't fire me for refusing service to your new CEO on video after years of documented complaints. Kareem interrupted. Try finding a lawyer for that. Samira's voice came through the speaker. Sir, local and international news outlets are en route. Al Jazeera just picked it up. 3 civil rights groups have already contacted us to offer pro bono legal help for victims. The Muslim woman smiled faintly. I posted the video. 12,000 shares in 20 minutes. The hashtag Hotel Justice is taking off. Kareem inclined his head. Public accountability works faster than any policy. Daniel spoke hesitantly. Sir, what about the rest of us who stayed quiet? You'll all be reviewed, Kareem said. Silence enables this. But those who acted to prevent it will be recognized. Meredith's voice rose again. I have rights. You can't. You had a pattern, Kareem replied. And my company doesn't tolerate discrimination. Not against Muslims, not against anyone. Samira returned to the line. The board has voted unanimously to support all terminations and policy changes. They've also approved a $2 million fund for victim compensation and training across all properties. The lobby was now buzzing like a newsroom. Reporters streamed in, cameras capturing Meredith's collapse and Kareem's calm authority. Kareem faced the press with the same dignity he'd held in his humiliation. Tonight is a turning point. This industry has protected discrimination for too long. We will model a better way forward. Meredith's final walkout, escorted by security, was filmed from every angle. The bitter irony wasn't lost on anyone. Daniel stepped closer. Sir, how do we make this right? Acknowledgement, training, accountability, Kareem said. Are you ready for all three? The lobby hummed with activity as interviews began and social media exploded. Meredith's public humiliation had become her own professional obituary, a cautionary tale about the cost of Islamophobia. But Meredith's downfall was only the beginning. Kareem's plan was never about a single manager. It was about reshaping an entire industry. 1 month later, Meredith sat in a sterile conference room, facing an employment tribunal. Her high-priced lawyer shuffled papers with an unease that betrayed how bad the evidence looked. Across from her, Kareem appeared on a large video screen, flanked by Noura Saleh, Crescent Hospitality's head of HR, and a team of civil rights attorneys specializing in religious discrimination, all working pro bono. The tribunal chair, Judge Amir Rahman, methodically reviewed the evidence. High-definition security footage from that night, 17 prior complaints, documented settlements, and testimony from former employees who had finally felt safe to speak after Meredith's removal. Meredith's lawyer attempted damage control. Your Honor, my client made an error in judgment during a stressful evening. She has worked in hospitality for 15 years without any major incidents. Counselor, Judge Rahman interrupted sharply. We have 6 legal settlements for religious discrimination in the past 18 months on record. That hardly qualifies as no major incidents. Meredith's composure cracked. Kareem's voice came through the speakers, steady, calm, exactly as it had been in the lobby that night. Your Honor, this case is not about one person's poor decision-making. It's about an industry culture that rewarded Meredith's behavior for years. She received bonuses for maintaining exclusivity and protecting guest comfort, both euphemisms for profiling Muslim travelers. The tribunal reviewed sworn statements from Meredith's former victims, guests, and employees, silenced for years by NDAs and the fear of retaliation. One testimony came from Amina Yusuf, a former front desk associate. Her voice trembling as she recalled, she would tell us to flag people who looked like they might pray in the lobby. I'm Muslim. I was told to hide my hijab at work. Meredith's public image had collapsed after the viral video. Recruitment agencies blacklisted her. Her LinkedIn page turned into a case study in professional self-destruction. Her marriage disintegrated under the weight of public shame. Neighbors crossed the street rather than greet her. Judge Rahman addressed her directly. Ms. Langley, do you understand the harm you caused the people who testified here today? Meredith's answer was pitiful. I was just doing my job, keeping to the standards I was trained in. Whose standards? Kareem interjected, his tone cutting. Crescent Hospitality standards are dignity, respect, and equal treatment for all guests, regardless of faith. Those are the standards you violated. The tribunal's decision was swift and final. Meredith's termination was upheld. Her appeal for wrongful dismissal was denied. She was personally liable for $50,000 in tribunal costs. More significantly, the ruling set a legal precedent. Individual employees could be held accountable for religious discrimination even when following an unofficial company culture. Noura delivered the final blow. Your Honor, Meredith Langley has been permanently blacklisted from all Crescent properties. We have shared her record with our industry partners for their consideration. Meredith's shoulders sagged. She knew she was finished in luxury hospitality. The Muslim couple from that night joined the tribunal via video. They had since become outspoken advocates for travelers who faced faith-based discrimination. The wife's voice was steady as she said, This isn't revenge. This is accountability. Every Muslim traveler who stayed silent because they thought nothing would change now knows their voice matters. Jacob Morrison, now promoted to head of security after completing Crescent's bias recognition training, testified via video. That night changed my perspective. I'm not just protecting a building anymore. I'm protecting the dignity of everyone who walks through the door. His promotion, paired with Meredith's termination, sent an unmistakable message about the company's values. Meredith's final statement to the tribunal revealed her lack of self-awareness. I still don't understand why this became such a big deal. It was just one night, one misunderstanding. The tribunal noted her refusal to acknowledge the harm she caused in their permanent record. Judge Rahman delivered the closing line that would later be taught in business ethics courses. Ms. Langley, you treated human dignity as a privilege reserved for guests who met your personal approval. Let this be a lesson. Accountability is not negotiable, no matter your position or assumptions about consequences. When the hearing ended, Meredith walked past a wall of cameras, her humiliation preserved in high definition for the public record. Her own lawyer abandoned her at the courthouse steps, unwilling to sink further with her. Kareem signed off from the video conference with words that resonated beyond that single case. This hearing is a message to the entire industry. Discrimination will be met with swift, public, and permanent consequences. The tribunal's decision became case law, cited in religious discrimination cases across multiple sectors. Meredith's name became shorthand for the career-ending cost of Islamophobia. Her story added to HR compliance training nationwide. Her downfall triggered exactly what Kareem had been planning for years, an industry-wide reckoning. 6 months later, Kareem stood at the podium of the International Hospitality Leadership Summit, addressing 2,000 executives. The Meredith Langley case had become a catalyst for change across global hotel chains. The Alabaster Crown incident was not an anomaly, Kareem told the packed auditorium. Our investigation uncovered similar patterns at 340 properties across 7 major brands. Discrimination wasn't a flaw in the system. It was a feature. The silence in the room was heavy. Noura presented the numbers. Crescent Hospitality had processed over 400 discrimination complaints since launching its anonymous reporting system. 17 managers had been terminated. 43 properties had undergone complete cultural overhauls. Satisfaction scores among Muslim and other minority travelers had risen 67%. Competitors scrambled to implement their own anti-profiling policies, terrified of becoming the next viral scandal. The hashtag Dignity in Hospitality now monitored incidents nationwide, giving victims a platform. Jacob Morrison, now a keynote speaker at security conferences, explained Crescent's new model. We rebuilt training from the ground up. Security is about protecting people's dignity, not enforcing bias. The Muslim couple from that night, now married, appeared on national television. We thought we were alone. Kareem showed us that speaking up protects future guests. Silence only protects the system. Their advocacy had already helped dozens of victims share their stories. Kareem revealed the bigger picture. That night at the Alabaster Crown had been intentional. We've conducted similar assessments at 47 properties nationwide, documenting faith-based profiling with legal-grade evidence. Corporate boards across the industry began adopting Kareem's dignity audits, undercover assessments measuring staff behavior toward diverse guests. Properties that failed faced immediate intervention, retraining, or closure. Diversity scores now appeared alongside financial performance metrics in investor reports. Precedents from the Langley case allowed faster prosecution of religious discrimination. Employment lawyers reported a 300% rise in cases, with most settling quickly to avoid public trials. Harvard, Oxford, and 12 other institutions added the Alabaster Crown case to leadership and ethics programs. Kareem ended his keynote with the number that mattered most. We've created 12,000 new jobs, prioritizing diversity. And revenue is up 23% because hospitality that welcomes everyone is not just right. It's profitable. The standing ovation that followed was more than polite applause. It was acknowledgement that Kareem had changed the rules of the industry. Meredith's 20 Minutes of Prejudice had triggered reforms that would protect millions of travelers. And Kareem's work was only beginning. He had plans to take the fight far beyond hospitality. 2 years later, Kareem returned to the Alabaster Crown, not as an undercover guest in modest travel clothes, but as the celebrated CEO whose transformation of the property had become a global hospitality case study. The same marble lobby that once echoed with Meredith Langley's Islamophobic performance now displayed awards for inclusion, excellence, and industry leadership. Daniel Cho, promoted to general manager after extensive training and genuine growth, greeted Kareem with a warm, professional smile. "Welcome back, Mr. Al-Hashimi. Your usual suite is ready." The exchange was natural, respectful. Everything Meredith's infamous reception had failed to be. Jacob Morrison, now Crescent's regional security director and head of bias recognition training across all properties, joined them with his monthly report. "Zero incidents of profiling this quarter, sir. Guest satisfaction among Muslim travelers is up 89% since reforms began." His own journey, from reluctant enforcer to outspoken advocate, was proof that accountability could create redemption. The Muslim couple from that night visited annually on their wedding anniversary, bringing family and friends to experience a hotel that didn't merely tolerate them, but genuinely celebrated their presence. Their children laughed and played in the same lobby where their parents once stood frozen in humiliation, a living reminder of generational change. Kareem walked through the property, observing staff interacting with guests of every background. The warmth was authentic, not performative. Employees greeted everyone without calculating worthiness based on headscarves, prayer caps, accents, or surnames. The culture shift wasn't just policy, it was embedded in daily practice. In Meredith's former office, now converted into a cultural competency training center, Kareem reviewed the broader impact. Crescent Hospitality had become the industry standard for inclusive excellence, leading the sector in both retention and revenue growth. Framed letters lined the wall, stories of transformation. A hijabi business consultant who finally felt safe meeting clients in a luxury setting. A Middle Eastern family who celebrated their daughter's graduation here without suspicious stares. A convert to Islam who was offered a quiet space for prayer without being treated as an inconvenience. Each letter marked the replacement of Meredith's toxic legacy with a new era of dignity. Kareem reflected on his journey from humiliation to empowerment, from personal justice to systemic change. That night's sting had been turned into an engine for reform, proving that the personal could become political, the local could become global, and the individual could become institutional. At the front desk, where it had all begun, Kareem noted the diverse team, now representing the communities they served. The booking system automatically flagged guest complaints involving potential profiling, triggering immediate escalation. Technology was now an ally in protecting human dignity. Samira joined him for their daily check-in. "Sir, 17 major hotel chains have adopted dignity audits modeled after ours. The Hospitality Equity Initiative you founded has processed 2,400 faith-based discrimination reports and resolved 94% of them." The lobby bustled with life. Families heading to dinner, business travelers on laptops, couples marking milestones. Diversity wasn't just present, it was welcomed, visible, celebrated. Kareem's phone buzzed with a message from his therapist, Dr. Faruqi. "Saw your BBC interview about expanding dignity audits to airlines and retail. You've turned trauma into transformation. I'm proud of your journey." As evening fell, Kareem stood in the exact spot where Meredith had once staged his public ejection. The air felt different now, warmer, inclusive, safe. The marbles still gleamed, but now reflected a broader spectrum of humanity. A simple truth settled in his mind. Dignity denied anywhere diminishes dignity everywhere. But the courage to confront injustice? That could transform systems for everyone. Turning toward the camera crew, filming a documentary on the hotel's transformation, Kareem addressed viewers directly. 2 years ago, this space was the stage for 20 minutes of public humiliation. Today, it represents what happens when we choose accountability over comfort and justice over silence. The camera panned across the vibrant, diverse lobby. Meredith Langley thought she was protecting exclusivity. Instead, she sparked the most comprehensive anti-profiling reform in hospitality history. Statistics flashed on screen. 17 hotel chains reformed. 2,400 discrimination reports processed. 12,000 jobs created with diversity, hiring priority. 89% increase in Muslim guest satisfaction. But hospitality was only the beginning, Kareem continued. Crescent Equity Group now conducts dignity audits in restaurants, airlines, healthcare, financial services. Discrimination exists everywhere. So, does the potential for change? The screen shifted to recent investigations. A Muslim family denied seating at an upscale restaurant. A man with a kufi cap ignored at a luxury car dealership. A woman in a hijab followed by security in a boutique. Each mirrored the same pattern Meredith had displayed. Assumptions based on faith and privilege shielding prejudice. Next month, Kareem announced, we launched the Dignity Challenge. Citizens can nominate businesses suspected of discrimination. We'll conduct undercover audits, and those who pass will earn certification. Those who fail will face public reform mandates. The camera lingered on the memorial plaque, now mounted in the lobby. In memory of dignity denied and justice delayed. May this space forever remind us that accountability is not optional. Kareem's closing words resonated with both hope and resolve. Meredith's story didn't end with her downfall. It began with our uprising. Every person who's been profiled, every witness who stayed silent, every system that enabled prejudice, your reckoning is coming. Dignity isn't a privilege to be earned. It's a right to be protected. When we fight for one person's dignity, we fight for everyone's freedom. The final shot showed Kareem walking across the transformed lobby, greeted by smiles from staff and guests alike. The contrast to that infamous night was complete and unforgettable.